everyone. Welcome back to the session of English. In this session, we are going to continue with our chapter One Word Substitution. Now, this is part 8. In this session, we are going to discuss one word substitutions based on scientific instruments. Now, you must be thinking that what are scientific instruments? So, in this session, we are going to discuss definition and concept of scientific instruments and words related to scientific instruments. It means we are going to discuss several names of scientific instruments which are used for several purposes, of which are used for various purposes. So let's begin the session. First of all, let us discuss the concept and definition of scientific instruments. Scientific instruments are tools or devices designed and used for various purposes in scientific research, experimentation, and data collection. These instruments are essential for making precise measurements, conducting experiments, and gathering data to better understand natural phenomena. Scientific instruments come in a wide variety of forms depending on the specific field of science and the type of measurements or observations required. So, scientific instruments are the instruments which are used to calculate something, to measure something, to measure density, to measure mass, to measure wavelength, and there are many other purposes for the scientific instruments or of the scientific instruments. So in this session, we are going to discuss several names of different scientific instruments which are used for various purposes. So in one word substitution, we read names of these instruments. So let's begin. The first one is instrument for measuring density of air and some gases. So there is an instrument which is used to measure the density of air and also the density of some gases. Now this kind of instrument is known as aerometer. Now aero, we relate it with aeroplane, and aeroplane flies in air, of course. So with that, with the help of that, we can learn the word that is aerometer, because aerometer is an instrument which is used for measuring density of air and some gases. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring altitude. Now altitude refers to height. So altitude refers to height. So whenever an altitude is measured or the height of something is measured, that is known as altimeter. So with word altitude, we can learn altimeter. So it is just alt and we are using a suffix that is meter, because meter is used to measure something, or it is called an instrument. Now the third one is instrument to measure strength of wine. So there is an instrument which calculates the strength of wine. That means what is the content of alcohol in that liquid, or actually a person who is having that alcohol. So they calculate that what is the content of that alcohol in a person. So that is actually the measure of strength of wine. So this instrument is known as vinometer and alcometer as well. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring electrical current. Now whenever this current is measured, this is known as ammeter. So this is ammeter. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring boiling point of liquids. So this is known as ebullioscope, or you also call it ebullioscope. Now let us move to the next one. This is the sixth one. Instrument for magnifying small objects. Now, whenever an object is very small and we enlarge it, or we want to see it as big, so we just magnify it. It means we just make it enlarge. Now how? With the help of magnifying glass and all. So this is known as microscope, which is used to see those naked items or those naked things which we cannot see with our naked eyes, or which are too small to be seen with naked eye. So that instrument is known as microscope. Basically, it is used to see bacteria and amoeba and various virus and bacteria. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring electric charge. Now previously we read electric current. Now this is electric charge we are talking about. This is known as electrometer. Now there is one more thing, that is magnetic waves. So that is another instrument which is used to calculate those electromagnetic waves. Now that we will discuss later on. So here we can see that instrument for measuring electric charge, this is electrometer, and electric current, this is ammeter. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for copying drawings, this is known as etograph. Now etograph, what does this mean? We basically copy whatever the things are there. If it is copied, so that is known as etograph. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring amount of chlorine in a solution, so that is known as chlorometer. So with the help of this word chlorine, you can learn the word chloro, and meter is just a suffix, so chlorometer. Now this one is very, very common and important. Instrument for measuring air pressure, so this is known as barometer, and this have been asked many times in your exams. Instrument for measuring mechanical force, now this is known as dynamometer. Dynamometer is used to calculate the mechanical force or the force which is applied to the object. So there is dynamometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring short vertical distances. So which are short distances, that is known as cathetometer. Now this is again, catheto is related to the distance and cathetometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for recording unusual electrical fluctuations of the heart. Now here a word is there, heart, and for heart we use a word cardiac. Now cardiac is basically related to heart, or you can say cardio. For example, if there is a word cardiology, it means one who studies of heart, that is known as cardiology. So basically cardio is a root word for the word heart. Now, instrument for recording unusual electrical fluctuations of the heart. It means we can say that there are variations in heart. So that can be a sign of a disease or a problem which a person is going to face. That is known as electrocardiograph. Now, instrument for measuring work performed. Basically, athletes, they take these type of instruments. They carry these type of instruments. For example, whatever the exercise they do, they just check that in this much of time, how much exercise they have done. So that is work performed. So work performed here refers to the exercise or the workout they are doing. That is known as ergometer. Now, instruments for measuring fermentation. Now, whenever fermentation takes place, now we have to calculate that in some cases. So the instrument for calculating such fermentation, that is known as zymometer. Now, instrument for measuring the eye. Now, what does this eye mean? For example, the working of eye, the inner parts of eye and their working. So whatever the instrument is used to calculate something about eye and its interior parts, that is known as ophthalmometer. Ophthalmometer. Now one more thing, ophthalmo is a root word for eye. For example, if we say the study of eyes, that is known as ophthalmology. The fear which is related to eyes, that is known as ophthalmophobia. So ophthalmo is basically a root word for eyes. So here we are using the same root word, that is ophthalmometer. So ophthalmo for eye and meter for measurement. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring rainfall. So whenever a rainfall is measured, this instrument which is used to calculate rainfall or the precipitation is known as rain gauge, or it can be called with one another name, that is hyetometer. So this is hyetometer or rain gauge. These are same. These are just used to calculate the amount of rainfall in a place or a particular area, or you can say the amount of precipitation, the frequency of rainfall. So that instrument is known as either rain gauge or hyetometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring focal length of a lens. So whenever there is a length, there is convex lens, concave lens. So in that case, whenever the focal length is calculated, so the instrument which is used to calculate this focal length is known as foci-meter or foci-meter. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring specific gravity of milk. So this is known as lactometer. So an instrument which is used to calculate anything about milk, the density, the weight, the specific gravity of that particular milk, that is known as lactometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring the growth of plants. So this is known as craskograph. So craskograph is basically used for measuring the growth of plants. Now, one group of words may have different words as well, or you can say one word can have different group of words or different definitions. So the word which is used as the instrument or for the instrument of measuring the growth of plants, this is known as craskograph. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring acuity of hearing, or you can say the hearing power. So this is known as audiometer. So we know well that audio is related to something that we hear or that we listen to, and audiometer is basically the measurement of accuracy of our hearing, how much properly we are hearing something, that is known as audiometer. Or what is the intensity of our hearing, that we hear properly, that we don't hear properly. So that is always calculated with the help of audiometer. Now, instrument for measuring absorbed or evolved heat, this is known as calorimeter or calorimeter. Instrument for recording air pressure, this is known as barograph. Now, when air pressure is counted, or you can say measured, that is known as barometer, and when it is recorded, that instrument is known as barograph. So there is a difference between barograph and barometer. Instrument for recording movements of the heart, now this is known as cardiograph. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring underwater depth using sounds. It means there is an instrument which is used to calculate the depth of a sea using the sound system, or using the things on the basis of sound. For example, whatever the sound we hear, with the help of that, we try to find out the depth of that particular water surface or the water body. So that is known as fathometer, that instrument with the help of which we use to measure the depth of a sea or any water body with the help of sound, that is known as fathometer. So that is fathometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for inspecting flowers. So when an instrument is used to inspect that flower, that is known as fluoroscope. Now, with the help of this flower, we have a root word that is floral. And with the help of this plural word, we get a word that is fluoroscope. Now, instrument for measuring rate of evaporation. So that is known as evaporimeter. Instrument for measuring sounds level. This is known as phonometer. Again, this word phono is the root word for sound. So, phonometer are the instruments for measuring sound levels. Now, let us move to the next one. Instrument for writing 2 lines of text at once. Now, instrument for writing 2 lines of text. So, when 2 lines of text are written at once, so this is known as diplograph. Now, diplo refers to double. So, this is known as diplograph. Instrument for recording the moment of an event. This is known as chronograph. Instrument for measuring speed. This is known as speedometer. Instrument for measuring subterranean temperatures. Now, subterranean refers to the water bodies or to the places which are under the surface of the earth. So that is known as geothermometer. Now, basically, geo refers to earth and thermometer are the instruments used to measure the temperatures. So geothermometer are the instruments for measuring subterranean temperatures or subterranean temperatures. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for counting cells. Now this is again very important. This is a biological terms in which we see that instrument for counting cells. Now this is known as cytometer, or we also call such instrument that is hemocytometer. So both the words are same. Instrument for measuring revolutions of a wheel. This is known as cyclometer. So revolutions, it means when the entire round takes place. So that is known as revolution around something. And you must have heard this word in terms of Earth revolving around the sun as well. Now, a revolution of the wheel. So that is measured by cyclometer, and we know well that cycle is a means of transportation. So we know about cycle, that is a basic means of transportation. So with the help of that particular word cycle and the wheel, in which you in the cycle you see basically two wheels are there, so that is known as cyclometer. So this is instrument for measuring trees. It means the growth of trees or to count the trees. This is known as dendrometer. Now we have another instrument for measuring frequency of electrical waves. Now there are two things. One is electrical waves and the another one is electromagnetic waves. So both the things are different. So here we are going to read instrument for measuring frequency of electrical waves. This is known as seismometer. And electromagnetic waves, that instrument is something else. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring light intensity. This is known as photometer. Now phono is basically used for sound and photo is used for light. So for light intensity we use an instrument that is photometer. Instrument for measuring dryness of the atmosphere. Now for the dryness we use psychrometer. This is psychrometer. Now basically it is beginning with P, but P is a silent letter over here. So the pronunciation of this word is psychrometer. So if we say instrument for measuring humidity or moisture of the atmosphere, that is known as hygrometer. So in this, we can see that there are different words for these instruments. That if the instrument is used to measure dryness of the atmosphere, it is known as psychrometer, or if it is used to measure the moisture of the atmosphere, that is known as hygrometer. So both the words are different from each other. Now, instrument for measuring the pulse. This is known as pulsimeter. Now, you must have also heard a word about oximeter. So, oximeter is also used to calculate the pulses in a patient. So, instrument for measuring the pulse, that is also known as pulsimeter and oximeter. Now, let us move to the next one. Instrument measuring solar radiation from the sky's whole hemisphere. Now, this is known as pyranometer. So, this is pyranometer. Now let us move to the next one. Apparatus for measuring quantity of X-rays. Now quantity of X-rays is measured by quantimeter. So we are calculating the quantity. So that is quanti and meter. Instrument for performing chromatic or chromatographic separations. It means when components in a compound are separated, that process is known as chromatographic separations. So that instrument is known as chromatograph. Instrument measuring the intensity of radiant energy, that is known as radiometer. Instrument for measuring time. So for time we use a root word that is chrono. So that is chronometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring fee for hired vehicle. Now, if you are going in a vehicle which is hired, for example, taxi and auto, and there is a meter, you must have seen the meter in which the time and amount is in continuous mode is going on. So, whenever you travel a distance or to a particular distance, it is fluctuating continuously. So, that is known as taximeter. So, that in taxi, there is meter, so that is known as taximeter. Now, this word you must have heard a lot of times in your life, that is instrument for measuring temperature. This is known as thermometer. And nowadays, we all have a thermometer at home, most probably. Instrument for viewing objects at great distances. This is known as telescope. So telescope is an instrument, is a kind of instrument through which we can see the planets or stars in the sky, and there are various things which we can see through telescope. It means the thing which is too far from us can be seen using telescope, and it works like binoculars which make the things appear closer to us. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument measuring wavelengths of light of a spectrum. So this is known as a spectrometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring intensity of sunlight. This is known as heliograph. Instrument for measuring specific gravity of liquids. This is known as hydrometer. Again, hydro is basically used for liquid and hydrometer. Instrument for observing sun without injury to the eyes. This is known as helioscope. So helio is basically a word used for sun. Instrument for counting blood cells. This is known as hemocytometer. Now, you must have heard a word that is hemoglobin. So for the word blood, we basically use a root word that is hemato. So hemocytometer or hemocytometer is basically an instrument used to calculate or count blood cells in a person or in a human body. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for viewing underwater. This is known as hydroscope. Instrument for measuring water hardness. This is known as hydrometer. Instrument for recording rainfall. This is hydrograph, and we have already learned some more word about related to this rainfall. Instrument for measuring weather resisting properties of paint. This is known as weatherometer. So weather is used for weatherometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for detecting sounds produced by the body. This is known as a stethoscope. You must have seen a stethoscope with doctor or in doctor's hand, because they always keep it just to check the heartbeats of the patient and also to check the different sounds coming from the body or produced by the human body. Instrument for recording and analyzing sound. This is known as sonograph. Instrument for measuring earthquake intensity. This is known as seismometer. Instrument for measuring heating effect of sun. This is known as pyrheliometer. So this is pyrheliometer. Now let us move to the next one. Instrument for measuring radiation from earth. This is known as pyrgeometer. And instrument for measuring very high temperature. This is known as pyrometer. So some words which are similar to each other or one another, but they have different meanings that you should learn with the help of root words. Now, these are some scientific instruments that we have already learned in this session. I hope you find it beneficial. Thank you very much.